Okay, guys, we're back again with understanding fractions greater than 1, a little lesson that goes along with what we're talking about this week. How can we name an object as a fraction when there's more than one whole represented? This is what the lesson on Tuesday is all about. So this picture actually comes straight out of Tuesday's work, where you have these sandwiches and they're divided into halves. I can first name those as unit fractions. So in the first fraction, or in the first sandwich, I see that there is 1/2 plus 1/2. I can see in the second sandwich that there's 1/2 plus 1/2. And then I can see in the third sandwich that there's 1/2. So I can write all of those unit fractions together, 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2, and it equals 5/2. That's one way to name this fraction. Another way to name it would be if I said in the first sandwich 2/2, in the second sandwich there are 2/2, and in the last one there's only 1/2. So 2/2 plus 1/2, or 2/2 plus 1/2 equals 5/2. Yet another way to say that would be I have 2 whole sandwiches and half of the third sandwich, or 2 1/2 sandwiches. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about decomposing fractions. Remember, decomposing means taking apart. So taking the fractions apart into different numbers, breaking it down. In this assignment, we're going to be decomposing or breaking apart fractions to name them in different ways. Remember, when we decompose fractions, we break them apart, but we keep the total number of parts the same. Unit fractions, you're going to see that also quite a bit in this lesson. Remember that a unit fraction are any fraction that has a 1 as a numerator. So some examples of that would be like 1/2, 1/10, 1/12, 1/5. Anything with a 1 as the numerator would be a unit fraction. If it's a fraction like 3/4 or 2/8 or 3/7, those do not have 1 as a numerator, so those are not unit fractions. A unit fraction must have a 1 as a numerator. Here's another picture from your lesson. And it says we can name the fraction of the shaded parts in a couple of different ways. So looking at this picture, you can see up here on the first picture that 1 out of those 3 is colored. So I can see that there's 1, 2, 3 in each of the boxes, so my denominator is 3. I can see 1 out of each of them is colored, so I know it's going to be 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 is going to be equal to 5/3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if we're looking at the shape at the top. Once we know the total parts, we can decompose that in different ways. Since I know different ways to make 5, such as 2 plus 3 or 1 plus 4, I can use that knowledge to decompose and rename it, remembering that my denominator must always stay the same. So I could name the same fraction as using the 2 and 3, 2/3 plus 3/3 equals 5/3. Or I could name it as 1/3 plus 4/3 equals 5/3. 1 plus 4 equals 5. The numerators have to go together to equal the total number of colored parts. Here's another example from your workbook. This one comes from page 86, I believe. This one is a question that asks you to name this fraction or this model in 4 different ways. It's really not as hard as it starts out to seem at first. So one way that I can always name the fraction is by unit fractions. Now this one's got quite a bit, so it's a lot of unit fractions. I know that my denominator has to be 8 because the boxes are divided into 8 equal pieces. So in the first box, I have 1/8 plus 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 1/8. That equals all 8 of those pieces. Plus in the second box, I have 3 of those pieces colored, so that would be 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. If I add all of those ones together from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I know that I have 11 eighths. Now I need to think of ways to split up 11. I could do 5 plus 6 equals 11. I could do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. I could do 7 plus 3, which I know is 10, plus 1 more is 11. Or I could do 4 plus 4, which is 8, and then plus 3, 9, 10, 11. Once I know that, I can create some other ways to describe this model with fractions. I can use the 5 and the 6 to say that 5 eighths plus 6 eighths equals 11 eighths. I can use the 2's and the 1, 2 eighths plus 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 1 eighth equals 11 eighths. I can use the 3, the 7, and the 1. 3 eighths plus 7 eighths plus 1 eighth equals 11 eighths. And I can use the 4's and the 3's. 4 eighths plus 4 eighths plus 3 eighths equals 11 eighths. Are these the only ways to show this model? Absolutely not. Any numbers that I can think of that would add up to 11, I can use as numerators in another problem. Let's try some more. These come straight out of Miss Hazel's Easter basket. These are some of my favorite Skittles. We could name these Skittles from my Easter basket as unit fractions. Remember that our denominator is the number of parts in each group. So in this case, there's 4 in each group. So in the first group, I have 4 pieces. So that would be 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. Notice those all have 1's as numerators, which makes them unit fractions. In the next group, I have 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. And then in the third group, I only have 2 Skittles, so it would be 1/4 plus 1/4. So if I add 1, 2, 3, 4 in the first group, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the second group, 9, 10 in the third group, that means I have 10 fourths. Now, we have to think of ways that we can get 10. That's pretty easy because we make 10 all the time when we're adding and subtracting. So 6 plus 4 is 10, 7 plus 3 is 10, 5 plus 5 is 10, 2 plus 8 is 10, or we could branch out a little bit and we could do 3 plus 3 is 6, plus another 3 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. So we could use 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1. Or in the case that I put up here, 1 plus 8 plus 1. So you can name it in any ways that you could make 10. If we're using the 6 and the 4 from up here, it says 6 fourths plus 4 fourths equals 10 fourths. Notice my denominator has to stay 4 because my groups are made of 4 objects. Next one, I use the 5 and the 5, so I have 5 fourths plus 5 fourths equals 10 fourths. The next one I use the 1, oh, this one I don't have up there, but this is another way to make 10. I have 1/4 plus 2 fourths plus 3 fourths plus 4 fourths equals 10 fourths. So I added 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. And 9 plus 1 is 10. So that still equals 10 fourths. Sorry, that one went by really quick, but you could see that was another one that I had up there. Our last example are, again, my Skittles made in a different way. This time I put them in groups of 6. These Skittles are in groups of 6, so my denominator is going to be 6. Looking at the picture, I see that in this picture, 6, 6 in the first group, 6, 6 in the second group, 6, 6 in the third group, and 3, 6 in the fourth group. So 6 and 6 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 plus 3, 18, 19, 20, 21 equals 21 6. I know that I can make 21 by adding 20 plus 1. So 26 plus 1 6 would be another way to name this fraction. I also know that I can make 21 by adding 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 5. We can check that by doing 5 plus 5 is 10, 4 plus 4 is 8, so 10 plus 8 is 18, and then add those extra 3, 19, 20, 21. So then I can just use all of those numbers as my numerators, so 3 6 plus 4 6 plus 4 6 plus 5 6 plus 5 6 equals 21 6. Remember, I can make 21 6 with any combination of numerators that equal 21. Just want you to remember that always. We are all here to help you. We miss you. We wish we were with you. We're all can't wait to get back together again. Please make sure that you complete your scheduled assignments for this week. Make sure that you're looking each day at what you should be working on. Not every day is it graded, but you should be doing your pages so that you can keep in practice. I want you to remember that you are graded on your work even when we're not in class. We have to prove that you are doing your work, so you have to prove to us that you are doing your work. Lastly, I want you to remember if you have any questions, please ask your teacher before you enter your answers on Google Classroom. Once you answer them on Google Classroom, you cannot go back and redo it. So if you have a question, call, text, email your teacher before you enter the answers on Google Classroom. That way we can help you to make sure that you're going to get the grade that you deserve. We're all in this together. I wish we could be together. Until we are together, let's all just keep doing the best that we can. You guys stay safe. Miss you lots.